All right. So now we're going to close out everything with the last bit of piece of the lean business model canvas, and that is your unfair advantage, right? So, in thinking about this, what is sort of, your secret weapon, right? What is a thing or something that you have or you've acquired that cannot be easily bought or copied, right? So, when thinking about this, it's like, are there spaces where you are best in the marketplace that others can't sort of edge you out or decide that they are going to sort of move past you because you have this unfair advantage? So, finding the unfair advantage. So, where can you compete where other individuals can't, right? Is there a space? Can you compete on price? Can you compete on location, speed? What are the things that you have that give you sort of an opportunity to best the competition, right? When you start to think about your work, your personal or educational history, is there something rare that others don't have, right? Can you dig into sort of your background and say, hey, I did this thing or I have this skill that fits super well and nicely with what I'm doing as a business that other people just wouldn't have and they don't know. And so that helps me. And so I can lean on that to have an advantage. Do you know something that others don't, right? Maybe with your product or service, you have a specific experience with this challenge that other people just would not have. And that gives you an advantage. And so you can lean into making sure that you're constantly coming back to that and saying, hey, I've actually experienced this, or I might have had 10 years of, having somebody close to me experience this. And so I have a deeper insight than the average person who might try to come and solve this problem. And are you doing something non-intuitive first, right? A lot of times people say, well, that's kind of a weird idea, and I don't know how I feel about that. But you might be doing something that the customers really love, that people are really gaining some traction on, that seems like it's a little bit odd at first, right? Or seems like, I don't really get that at first as to why people would be doing that. That may be a competitive advantage for you, right? Because then for your customers who really do get it, you're providing something that they really enjoy that's really going to help them moving forward. So there's a couple of quick examples of what unfair advantage might be, right? It may be that you have a team of individuals that are incredible. They're elite, the best of the best. And so that gives you a competitive advantage. It could be that you have some insider information, right? Maybe you have some details about a market. Maybe you have some details about a technology or about a particular service, about how a service is delivered that others who would try to enter the space just don't understand and don't know, which is great, right? Same thing with deep subject matter expertise. A lot of times when people have businesses, they try to kind of downplay having a certain level of subject matter expertise in a particular area if it doesn't align directly with the business, right? So let's say, you're in shipping and logistics, but you are running a bakery, right? And you spent the last 20 years in logistics, but now you run a bakery. Okay, great. But your deep subject matter expertise may give you a competitive advantage in knowing how to move products and services around that other people who also run bakeries just don't have, right? And so how can you make sure that you're amplifying that? And so that becomes a portion of sort of your unfair or competitive advantage. The community, like, do you have a certain community? Is there a community of individuals, whether that's physical, like in location, or community online? Like, what are the areas or people or networks that you're sort of plugged into that are going to help you? Same thing with patents and trade secrets, or even things like celebrity endorsements. And I mentioned previously, the celebrity endorsements don't necessarily mean an A-list celebrity off TV. It could be somebody who's a celebrity in that space. It could be a local celebrity, right? It could be somebody who just has a particular high level of interest from individuals who are your customers, right? So we'll take it back to the example of the bakery. Maybe it's a local person who's just been known for, their desserts and baking, or they're a local critic of restaurants and places. And they can say, hey, you have the best, desserts in town, right? That could be a celebrity endorsement. So thinking about what those kinds of things are, really, really important. But take some time, really kind of dive in and think about what you are actually doing, right? And so take a few minutes, think about what are the skills or experience or networks that you have that others don't, right? After that, what you want to do is take 15 minutes to create a list of anything that you have done, individuals that you know, and networks that you're a part of. And then after that, list the top 3 things you have, which could give you an advantage over the competition in the marketplace, right? This is important because you're going to need every bit of advantage as you're moving into these spaces. Because like I said, there are very few times when you won't be competing with others. And how do you set yourself apart? How do you actually make sure that you're using every bit of what you have to give yourself a competitive advantage over the marketplace? All right. So that is going to be it for now on the Lean Business Model Canvas. And so if you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. Enjoy.